My wife threw me out onto the street and kept every last thing I owned just so she could hand it all to her lover. The only thing I had left was an old debit card my father had given me. I was sure the balance was zero, but that card ended up making the bank manager tremble with fear. Tell me which city you're listening from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so we can unravel this mystery together. The heavy, sticky heat of a New York summer wrapped itself around Daniel Carter the moment he stepped out of the Uber in front of Imperial Tower, one of the most luxurious buildings on the Upper East Side. He had just spent 2 weeks in a dusty little town in rural Georgia, up in the hills, taking care of his mother, who had been at death's door. Now that she was stable, Daniel was finally coming home, craving the comfort of his penthouse and, more than anything, the warmth of his wife, Olivia. He rolled his suitcase across the gleaming marble lobby of Imperial Tower, cooled by air conditioning and scented with expensive perfume. Relief softened his tired features when the elevator stopped on the 30th floor with a soft ding. His clothes were wrinkled from travel, his mind exhausted, but he was genuinely happy to be back. The hallway was cool and quiet, carpeted, lit with warm, discreet lights. He stopped in front of 30A, their penthouse. He rummaged in his backpack, pulled out the electronic key fob, and held it to the digital reader. Beep, beep. A red light flashed. Access denied. Daniel frowned, tried again, and heard the same flat sound. That's odd. Maybe it got demagnetized, he muttered, trying not to worry. He rang the doorbell twice. Silence. Only the distant hum of the elevator filled the corridor. Then he heard footsteps inside, the click of the deadbolt, and the heavy door opened. There was Olivia, his wife. But she didn't look like the Olivia he knew. Her eyes were cold and calculating. She was wearing a silk robe, her hair tousled, and the air in the apartment was thick with a distinctly masculine cologne that was not his. "Oh, you're back already," she said without a trace of joy. Daniel's heart stalled for a second. "Olivia, why? Why doesn't my key work?" he asked, his voice shaking. "Because I changed the locks," she replied, still blocking the doorway with her body. From inside the penthouse, a man's carefree laugh rang out. "Babe, who is it? If it's a salesman, tell him to get lost," a young male voice called. A very handsome man, much younger than Daniel, appeared behind her. Daniel recognized him instantly. It was Ryan, an up-and-coming model and Instagram influencer he had never trusted. Ryan was wearing Daniel's silk robe, the one Daniel had bought himself for their anniversary the year before. He looked Daniel up and down, judging the travel-worn jeans, the tired face, the scuffed suitcase. "Oh," Ryan said with a mocking little smile, "he's not a salesman. That's the ex-husband." Ex-husband. The word hit harder than a slap. "Olivia, what is this?" Daniel whispered, feeling tears burn at the corners of his eyes. "Who is he? Why is he in our home? Why is he wearing my clothes?" Olivia sighed as if he were some minor inconvenience. "Look, Daniel, this is over. We should talk downstairs. Don't make a scene here," she said, still not letting him set a single foot inside. She slipped into the hallway, closed the door behind her, and left Ryan inside, smiling smugly. They rode the elevator down in silence. Olivia didn't say a single word. Daniel was petrified, unable to process what had just happened. He could still smell Ryan's aggressive cologne clinging to the air. When the doors opened onto the crowded lobby at rush hour, a few residents glanced at them curiously. Olivia walked quickly to a corner of the vestibule, half hidden near a huge window looking out over Park Avenue. Daniel followed like a robot. "Olivia, explain what's going on," he asked in a threat of a voice. "What's there to explain?" she answered, icy. "It's not obvious?" "No, it's not," he murmured. "We've been married 10 years. 10 years, she repeated. "Yes, and it's over. You and I are done. That's it." "After 10 years, after I took care of your mother when she had the stroke last year, after we built all this together from nothing?" Daniel said, incredulous. Olivia let out a cynical little laugh. "Built this with me from nothing? Don't be ridiculous, Daniel. I'm successful because of my work. You've been nothing but a burden. especially since you're always running off to that little town in Georgia to take care of your mother. You forgot your duties as a husband." "My duties," he repeated. "Yes, look at you," she said, pointing at him with contempt. "Disheveled, sloppy. I'm a top real estate developer. I need a partner at my level, not some kept man doing family favors." "And you and Ryan, how long?" Daniel asked, jaw hanging open. "A year," Olivia replied without a shred of guilt. "And he actually understands me." At that moment, a security guard approached, pushing a small old suitcase and a worn duffel bag Daniel recognized instantly, the same ones he had used when he first moved to New York years earlier. Olivia took the bag and tossed it at his feet. Part of the contents spilled out. Old clothes, a battered wallet. "There are your things. I threw the rest out," she added, and then flung a manila envelope onto the bag. "Those are the divorce papers. I've already signed. There's an agreement inside. All the assets. This penthouse, the cars, the company, everything is in my name. You came into this marriage with nothing. You leave with nothing." The tears finally slipped from Daniel's eyes. This wasn't just a humiliation, it was a cold execution. You can't do this," he stammered. "Of course I can. I already did." Olivia shot back, her eyes like ice. "Sign those papers. If you behave and don't claim any marital assets, I might be generous and give you enough money for a bus ticket back to your little town in Georgia." A murmur rippled through the lobby. People were whispering as they watched the scene unfold. Daniel felt naked, exposed. "Get out," she hissed. "But this is my home too," he protested. "Not anymore," Olivia snapped. "Security!" 2 guards came over, uncomfortable but clearly siding with the penthouse owner. "We're sorry, sir. Please don't cause a disturbance," one said, taking his arm gently. Daniel was half dragged toward the exit. He looked back, pleading, "Olivia, please." But she just stared at him with an empty expression, then turned and walked toward the elevator. From the mezzanine railing, Daniel caught a glimpse of Ryan's silhouette watching his own supposed triumph from above. The glass lobby doors closed with a soft sigh, cutting him off from the life he had lived for the last 10 years. He ended up on the hot sidewalk under a sky already starting to darken, with nothing but a bag of old clothes and a stack of insulting divorce papers. Night fell quickly over the city. Streetlights flickered on like electric fireflies, but for Daniel, everything remained in darkness. He walked without direction, the blare of horns and the heavy traffic roaring in his ears. He had nowhere to go. His mother was still recovering in Georgia. He couldn't burden her with this disaster as well. His steps eventually carried him to a bench on the edge of Central Park. He sat there, staring at the glittering skyline. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten since morning. Around him, restaurant terraces were filling up, the smells of grilled meat, tacos, and ice cream drifting through the air, stabbing his hunger even deeper. People laughed. Couples walked hand in hand. Daniel felt like an invisible ghost, someone who no longer existed. He opened the wallet Olivia had tossed at him. Inside, there were about $10 in crumpled bills, not even enough for a night in a cheap roadside motel. He pulled out his phone. The battery was at 5%. Quickly, he opened the banking app for their joint account. Balance 0. Olivia had not only thrown him out, she had completely cleaned him out, draining every last dollar from the shared account, including the savings he had had before their marriage. A cold, crushing despair coiled around his chest. It was over, he thought. He had hit rock bottom. He was going to sleep on the street that night. Silent tears slid down his face. He checked the wallet again. Behind the card slots there was a faded photo, an old picture of his father. His father, Albert Carter, a humble farmer and tobacco trader, had died 10 years earlier, just before Daniel married Olivia. Behind the photo, there was something else. With trembling fingers, Daniel tugged at the edge and pulled out a faded blue debit card with worn-down edges. The logo was barely legible. Southern Heritage Bank, a small regional bank from his childhood. Daniel froze. He remembered. His father had given him that card when he was 17, right before he moved to New York for college. "Keep this, son," his father had said in that soft but steady voice. "It's an account your old man opened for you. Never touch it unless you absolutely have to. Don't mix it with your day-to-day money. Pretend it doesn't exist." "How much is in it, Dad?" he had asked, curious. Albert had only smiled mysteriously. "Enough to work as an anchor. If you ever feel your boat is going to sink, use this. But as long as you can sail, don't touch the anchor." Daniel had never used it. He had forgotten it existed. College, friends, then Olivia and the rise of her real estate empire had taken up all his mental space. He had always assumed that account might hold at best a few hundred leftover dollars from some old allowance. But tonight, his boat wasn't about to sink. It had already exploded. He clenched the card tightly. Those $10 in cash wouldn't get him far. But maybe, just maybe, whatever his father had left in that account would at least buy him a bus ticket back to Georgia. A thin thread of hope lit up in his chest. He didn't sleep. He found shelter under the awning of a closed store, hugging his bag like a life raft and waiting for dawn. He was dirty, hungry, and terrified, but the faded card burned warm in his hand. At 8 in the morning, he was already standing in front of a Southern Heritage Bank branch on a quiet side street in Lower Manhattan. The branch looked so similar to the one from his childhood visits in Georgia that it made his chest ache. Old stone, rooted in the past, so different from the sleek glass and steel banks where Olivia kept her money. Inside, the atmosphere was quiet. There were only 2 tellers and 1 customer service desk. The air smelled of old paper and dust. Daniel took a number. He was the only client. They called him to the desk, where a young man in a white shirt was waiting. His badge read, Alex. "Good morning, sir. How can I help you?" He greeted politely, though his eyes showed a flicker of surprise at Daniel's slightly disheveled appearance. "Good morning," Daniel answered, his voice hoarse. "I'd like to check the balance, but the card is very old, and I've forgotten my PIN." He handed over the worn blue card. Alex turned it between his fingers and frowned. "Wow, sir, this card is ancient. It's our old logo," he said. "Can it still be used?" Daniel asked anxiously. "Let me see. May I have your ID?" The clerk took his driver's license and confirmed the name, Daniel Carter. Then he began typing on his computer. The system seemed slow. Alex typed, clicked, typed again, his frown deepening. "That's strange," he murmured. Daniel's heart began to race. "Is something wrong?" he asked, terrified. "The information isn't coming up right away. Our old system can be a little temperamental. It looks like this account is in inactive or dormant status. How long has it been without movement?" "Maybe 20 years, Daniel said uncertainly. Alex's eyes widened. 20 years. One moment, sir. I'll try to access the server manually." His fingers flew over the keyboard. Lines of green code filled the screen, incomprehensible to Daniel. The silence grew heavy. Only the clacking keys and the hum of the air conditioning could be heard. Convinced the account had been closed and the money lost, Daniel bit his lip. Alex scratched his head. "This is odd. The balance isn't showing, sir, but there's some sort of flag, a high-level alert on this account." "Alert?" Daniel asked, throat tightening. "Does that mean I have a debt?" No, not a debt," Alex replied nervously. "I've never seen this code before. One moment, please." He typed another series of commands. The computer seemed to think, and suddenly something appeared on the screen. Alex's relaxed face changed instantly. He went white as a sheet, his eyes glued to the monitor. "Sir? Alex?" Daniel called, unsettled. Alex didn't answer. He was frozen, reading the same thing over and over. His mouth fell open. He swallowed hard, then suddenly stood up so fast his chair skidded back with a shriek. "Mr. Roberts, sir, you need to see this," he shouted, shattering the bank's quiet. He no longer looked at Daniel. His eyes were welded to the screen as if whatever was there scared him. From a glass-walled office emerged a middle-aged man with a severe face, Mr. Roberts, the branch manager. "What's going on, Alex? Don't yell like that. We have customers," he scolded. "Sorry, sir, but you really need to see this," Alex insisted, pointing at the screen with a trembling hand. "Account in the name of Daniel Carter, inheritance from his father, Albert Carter." Roberts sighed, annoyed at the interruption, and approached the desk ready to scold his employee. He glanced at the monitor and froze. His professional, rigid expression collapsed in an instant. Irritation turned to confusion, then to a deadly pallor. He stared at the monitor, then at Daniel, then back at the monitor. "Mr. Daniel Carter?" he asked, his voice now trembling. "Yes," Daniel replied, frightened. "What's going on? Was my father some kind of criminal?" "Alex, close your window now," Roberts ordered urgently. "Put up the closed sign and escort Mr. Carter to my office, and make sure no one else sees that screen." The tone was so urgent that Daniel flinched. Stammering, Alex hurried to hang the closed sign and shut off his monitor. "This way, sir," he said, suddenly treating Daniel with almost reverent respect. In the small manager's office, the door was locked as soon as they entered. Roberts paced for a few seconds before finally sitting down at his own computer. His hands shook slightly as he turned it on. "Please forgive us, sir. This has taken us by surprise," he said, trying to regain his composure. "I don't understand any of this," Daniel replied, on the verge of tears. "Did my father leave some huge debt?" "Debt?" Roberts let out a nervous little laugh. "No, sir. Quite the opposite." He turned the monitor toward Daniel. Alex, standing in the corner, pointed at the screen, barely breathing. "Please look at this." The screen did not show a simple balance in dollars, but an ownership structure diagram. "This isn't a normal savings account, sir," Roberts explained in a low, awed voice. "It's a master account tied to a limited liability company." Company?" Daniel repeated, frowning. "Exactly. Carter Legacy LLC," Roberts read. "Your father, Albert Carter, founded it in 1998. It's been dormant for about 20 years. "But my father was just a tobacco seller," Daniel whispered. "That's what he wanted people to believe," Roberts interrupted gently. "From what I can see here, he didn't just sell tobacco. He was a land broker, and a genius, if you'll allow me to say so." He clicked another tab. "Assets, Carter Legacy LLC. This company legally owns 2,000 acres, about 800 hectares, of pecan orchards and farmland in southern Georgia, all under this deed, and full ownership was transferred to you as heir with a special clause." "What clause?" Daniel whispered. "That the company would become active and all its assets accessible to the heir only if the heir accessed the master account in a desperate situation, or if the balance of his personal accounts was zero," Roberts read. Daniel's jaw went slack. His father had seen it coming. He stared at the lines of data on the screen. These weren't savings figures, but stretches of land, shares, assets. He didn't faint or scream. He straightened in his chair. The hunger, exhaustion, and humiliation of the last 24 hours evaporated, replaced by something cold, sharp, and very strong. He remembered Olivia's mocking smirk, Ryan's triumphant smile. "Mr. Roberts," Daniel said, surprised by the calm in his own voice. "Yes, sir." "What do I have to do to activate this company right now?" Roberts studied him, concerned. This was not the reaction he had expected. Sitting before him was not a man sobbing with relief, but someone whose eyes, still swollen from crying, had hardened. Daniel stared at the screen with a chilling, focused intensity. "Technically, it's already active, sir," Roberts stammered. "The moment you accessed the account with a personal balance of zero, the clause was fulfilled. Our legal team, which manages the trust, is already on standby for your instructions." Alex hurried to place a glass of water in front of Daniel, which he ignored. "My father, Albert Carter. What else do you know about him?" Daniel asked. Roberts opened a drawer and pulled out a thick, dusty folder. "Your father was a priority client long before we even had the concept of private banking," he explained. "He left this, a letter and several legal documents. He asked us to give them only to his son, or to open them if his son ever accessed the account." He handed Daniel a yellowed envelope. Daniel's hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a sheet of paper, handwritten in his father's strong, steady script. "To my son, Daniel. If you're reading this, one of two things has happened. First, that your old man is no longer here, and you're ready to start your own life. Second, that life didn't turn out the way you expected. Daniel swallowed hard and kept reading. I was a salesman, that's true, but I also know this world is not always fair to decent black men like you. I saw how they treated your mother, and I know what some people will do when they see someone vulnerable. Your father saved a small anchor for you, not to spoil you, but to make sure you have options when you feel cornered. I designed the desperation clause on purpose. I know you're very smart, but I also know you have a big heart. I was afraid that if you had money, the wrong woman might be drawn to you. And if you didn't have money, the wrong woman might still crush you. That's where your old man failed. I hoped you'd never have to read this letter. But if you are reading it, remember my message. Don't come here with tears. Build your own kingdom, son. Make them regret it. The anchor is already down. Now sail. With love, Dad. The tears he had been holding back finally fell, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of understanding. His father, that simple salesman, had seen the future. He had seen Olivia decades before she appeared in Daniel's life. Daniel wiped his eyes with the back of his hand and looked at Roberts. I need 3 things, he said. What are they, sir? First, cash. I don't have a single dollar. Daniel answered bluntly. Of course. Alex, prepare a withdrawal from the operating account, Roberts ordered immediately. Second, Daniel continued, I need somewhere to stay for a few days. A safe hotel, far from Imperial Tower. That can be arranged. We have corporate agreements with secure hotels, the manager nodded. And third, and this is the most important, Daniel leaned forward. I need full financial information on Carter Legacy LLC and a recommendation for the best corporate restructuring consultant you know, but not from Olivia's circles. I want someone based in the Park Avenue financial district, someone who doesn't know her. Roberts was speechless for a moment, impressed by the composure of this man who had looked like a homeless stranger half an hour earlier. I know someone, he said finally. They call him the cleaner. He's expensive, cold. His name is Marcus. Perfect, Daniel replied. Give me the cash, book the hotel, and set up a meeting with Marcus. Daniel did not stay at the hotel Roberts had reserved. That was his first move. Don't be predictable. After withdrawing a considerable amount of cash, a sum that would have made him dizzy just the day before, he bought a new phone with a new number and several sets of simple but clean clothes at a nearby mall. Then he booked a room at the St. Regis on Park Avenue, one of the city's most luxurious hotels, under a false name. He locked himself in for 24 hours. He ordered room service, ate like he hadn't eaten in days, took a long hot shower, and slept. He let his mind process the destruction and rebirth that had unfolded in a single day. The next morning he did not call Marcus. He knew someone like that would not be impressed by a phone call. Daniel went straight to the heart of the financial district, surrounded by glass skyscrapers. Marcus's office was on a high floor, minimalist and cold, all glass and steel. In his new clothes, simple, neat, Daniel still stood out from the polished crowd, but he didn't feel smaller. I'd like to see Mr. Marcus, he told the receptionist. I don't have an appointment. Mr. Marcus is busy, sir. His schedule is full for the next 2 months, she replied without looking up much. Tell him, Daniel insisted calmly, that Daniel Carter is here, owner of Carter Legacy LLC, with 2,000 acres of agricultural assets. The receptionist hesitated, but the words 2,000 acres made her pick up the phone. 5 minutes later, she escorted Daniel to a corner office with a panoramic view of the city. Marcus was a black man in his late 30s, no tie but more formal than many CEOs in suits. He didn't smile. His eyes were razor sharp as they swept Daniel from head to toe. I've only got 10 minutes, Mr. Carter, he said in a deep, flat voice. Carter Legacy, dormant company, agricultural assets. What's the problem? Daniel sat down without waiting to be invited. The problem, Mr. Marcus, he said, is that this company just woke up. The assets are substantial, but I know nothing about pecan trees or peaches or how to manage any of this. And I have another problem that needs to be solved. Which is? My ex-wife. She's a developer in this city. Her name is Olivia. She'll demand a piece. Right now she knows nothing about this. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Interesting. What do you want from me? I want you to restructure this company from the ground up, audit it, turn it into a modern, active, profitable business. And I want you to be my personal advisor, Daniel said without hesitation. I want to learn how to use this power. Marcus studied him for a long moment. I'm expensive, Mr. Carter, he warned. I know, Daniel replied. I'm not asking you to manage my personal drama. I'm not asking you to get involved in my mess. I'm asking you to teach me how to win a war in business. The drama is just a bonus. A faint smile touched Marcus's mouth. The first. When do we start? He asked. Yesterday, Daniel answered. 2 weeks passed. The city had no idea what was happening behind those discreet office doors. Daniel and Marcus's small team worked 20-hour days dissecting Carter Legacy LLC. They discovered the assets were even greater than expected. Albert hadn't just bought land. He had quietly acquired small stakes in agribusiness companies that were now worth a fortune. Daniel learned fast, devouring financial reports, studying agricultural law, absorbing the basics of agribusiness management. Marcus watched him with growing intrigue. This client was different. He wasn't driven by panic or greed, only by focus. He was like a dry sponge soaking up everything. During those 2 weeks, Daniel transformed on the outside as well. He cut his long, messy hair into a short, firm, elegant style. He threw away his old clothes with the help of a personal shopper Marcus hired. His wardrobe now held tailored suits, fine cotton shirts, and simple but refined pieces in sober colors: black, navy, gray. The dark circles under his eyes faded, replaced by an alert gaze. Worn sneakers gave way to dress shoes. But the biggest change was in his eyes. There was no fear anymore, only calculation. "Are you ready to step back into the ring, sir?" Marcus asked one afternoon. "More than ready," Daniel replied. He did not go back to the hotel. On his orders, Marcus's team had been working quietly inside the city. They bought an old townhouse in Brooklyn Heights. It wasn't a flashy new mansion like the ones Olivia adored, but a historic house, solid and elegant, with the air of old wealth and generational power. They paid for it in cash. When Daniel crossed the threshold of his new home, he was no longer the man who had been thrown out of the lobby of Imperial Tower. He was Mr. Daniel Carter, CEO of Carter Legacy LLC. Meanwhile, in the penthouse of Imperial Tower, life for Olivia and Ryan was at its peak. "This project, babe," Olivia exclaimed one night, pouring champagne into a glass Ryan was holding up for selfies. "This is going to change the game." After sweeping Daniel out of her life, she felt invincible. Her construction company was frantically chasing projects. "I've got insider information," she said, eyes glittering with ambition. "There's incredible land coming onto the market, thousands of acres they're opening up for a luxury development. I have to land that contract." Ryan, busy with his phone, barely listened. "Uh-huh. Sounds great. That means we can have the wedding in Cancun, right? And I want that new watch, the really expensive one." "Of course, anything for you," Olivia replied, though inside she was nervous. To secure a project that big, she needed a massive injection of capital. She needed investors. Her company carried significant debt thanks to their extravagant lifestyle. "I'll set up meetings with every potential investor I can," she muttered. A few days later, she started hearing rumors in the Upper East Side business circles. "Did you hear?" a colleague told her. "There's a new player in town, investing like crazy. Bought a mansion in Brooklyn Heights. Hired a reform consultant, that guy Marcus, the cleaner." "What's the company called?" Olivia asked, intrigued. "No one's really sure. They're very discreet. Just the company name. It sounds old-fashioned. Carter Legacy LLC. Does that ring a bell?" Olivia shook her head. "Old money name. They're probably some ancient rich family finally waking up their assets," she said, mentally licking her lips. This was the perfect opportunity. She ordered her assistant to find a way to contact Carter Legacy. She had to present her proposal to develop the project in southern Georgia. She had no idea the very land she coveted was the land Daniel had inherited. The invitation arrived. Carter Legacy was interested in hearing the proposal from Olivia Construction, Inc. The meeting would take place at the CEO's residence in the Brooklyn Heights mansion. Olivia felt on top of the world. "Look, Ryan, they invited me," she bragged. "They must have heard about my reputation." That morning, she put on her most expensive suit, rehearsed her pitch in the mirror, and left determined to dazzle the mysterious investor. The tall wrought-iron gate opened slowly as her car pulled up. She stepped into a majestic yet understated foyer with marble walls and antique furniture. A formal-looking assistant greeted her. "Good afternoon, Ms. Olivia. Please wait in the boardroom. Our leadership will be here shortly." He led her into a massive library converted into a meeting room. On one side stood a long mahogany table. On the other, tall windows looked out onto an immaculate garden. At the far end, a man was working on a laptop. Olivia assumed he was the boss. "Good afternoon, sir," she said. "I'm Marcus, the consultant," he replied, looking up with cool detachment. "Please sit, Ms. Olivia. Our CEO will be here in a few minutes." Olivia began to feel uneasy. The atmosphere was too heavy, too silent. 5 minutes felt like an hour. Suddenly, the double doors behind her opened. She didn't turn right away. She heard footsteps, firm dress shoes striking the marble. "Forgive the delay," said a voice. A familiar voice. Impossible. Olivia went rigid. She knew that voice, though now it carried a frosty authority. She slowly turned her chair. The footsteps stopped at the far end of the table. There was Daniel. Hair perfectly styled, a navy suit fitting his frame with quiet elegance, features composed, eyes that no longer belonged to a wounded man, but to someone who gave orders. He looked at her without hatred or love, the way a superior looks at a subordinate. Olivia's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Daniel sat calmly at the head of the table. Marcus moved beside him and handed him a tablet. Daniel glanced at Olivia and smiled faintly. The smile never reached his eyes. "Good afternoon, Ms. Olivia," he said, his clear voice filling the room. "I'm Daniel Carter, CEO of Carter Legacy, LLC. He leaned forward slightly. "You can start your presentation. I'm told you're very interested in the land in southern Georgia." He paused to let the words sink in. "Coincidentally, all that land you're so eager to get your hands on belongs to me." The silence grew dense. Olivia could hear her own heartbeat. She thought it had to be some cruel joke, but Daniel's eyes that had once worshipped her, were now as cold as the marble beneath her feet. Daniel," she managed. This is impossible. 2,000 acres, Carter Legacy. Where did you get the money?" He leaned back in his chair, not bothering to answer. "Mr. Marcus, what do you think of Olivia Construction's initial proposal?" Daniel asked. Marcus, who had been a silent shadow until then, spoke in a flat, lethal tone. "Conceptually ambitious, but financially very weak. Miss Olivia, your proposal doesn't include an adequate risk analysis, and your profit projections are wildly optimistic." Olivia felt as if someone had thrown a bucket of ice water over her. She had come to impress a naive investor, and instead found herself being audited. "Wait," she said, trying to recover. Her old arrogance scrambled for an explanation. "Daniel is just a front," she thought. "The one in charge must be Marcus." Speaking in that condescending tone she always used with Daniel, she said, "I don't know what happened to you, but this is a huge deal. Maybe we can collaborate. You know me. I'm the best builder in the city." Daniel smiled slightly. "Oh, I know you very well, Olivia." He stood up. "I don't have much time, but I'll give you a chance." Hope fled in her eyes. "My team," he said, glancing at Marcus, "will carry out full due diligence on your company. A thorough review of your financial life. We need to see your accounting, your list of assets, your list of debts. We won't invest a single dollar in a company that isn't transparent." Olivia hesitated. Opening her books would be disastrous. Her company was nowhere near as healthy as she pretended. "Why does it have to be so complicated?" she protested. "It's me, Daniel. I'm your ex-wife." Precisely for that reason, Ms. Olivia, Marcus cut in. We have to be professional. Take it or leave it. If you refuse the audit, we'll void your proposal and offer our land to another builder. If I'm not mistaken, your competitors on the Upper East Side are very interested. It was a clear threat. Olivia was cornered. If she walked away, she'd lose the biggest project of her career. If she accepted, she'd have to expose all her wounds. Fine, she said at last, forced. Let's do the audit. I have nothing to hide. Daniel nodded. Mr. Marcus's team will contact you. Good afternoon. Olivia was escorted to the door. She got into her car with trembling hands. She had no idea whether she had just dodged a bullet or walked straight into a trap, but she knew one thing. The new Daniel scared her. She returned to the penthouse a nervous wreck. "Babe!" Ryan called, jumping off the sofa in yet another new designer outfit. "How'd it go? Are we rich yet? When do we start planning the wedding in Cancun?" "Shut up for a second, I'm thinking," Olivia snapped, throwing her blazer on the floor. He froze. "Hey, why are you talking to me like that?" She paced back and forth. "The investor is complicated. This is really bad." "What do you mean complicated? Did they say no?" Ryan asked, uneasy. "No, not yet, but you're not going to believe this." She pulled at her hair. "The investor, the CEO, is Daniel." Ryan went still. "What? Daniel? The guy we kicked out? The one you used to call the poor thing?" Olivia growled. "He's not some poor thing anymore. He's a different person. He has a mansion in Brooklyn Heights, a financial consultant, and he owns the land." Ryan's handsome face turned pale. This was the worst-case scenario, not because he loved Olivia, but because his status, his luxuries, his future all depended on her bank account. And that account was now threatened by the man he had most despised. "It's a bluff," Ryan whined. "No way he's that smart. He probably latched onto some rich old lady. That's it. He's a kept man." Olivia barely heard him. "He wants to audit my company. What am I going to do?" While her panic grew, Ryan's desperation turned into anger. "Who does that guy think he is, coming back to ruin everything? I'll take care of it," he snorted. "Take care of what? Stay out of it," Olivia warned, but he already had a plan. He knew where the new city elite liked to work and be seen. He would find Daniel and try to humiliate him in public, remind him who he really was. A few days later, Ryan heard from a friend that Daniel often worked at a luxury boutique coffee shop in a new office complex in the Upper East Side. Ryan showed up in full costume, latest season designer clothes, an ostentatious watch, sunglasses worn indoors. He spotted Daniel in a corner, alone, reading documents on a tablet while sipping coffee. Ryan strode over and slapped his hand down on the table to draw attention. "Well, look who we've got here," he said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. "Mr. Daniel Carter, climbing fast, huh? From being thrown out of a lobby to sitting in an expensive cafe?" Daniel slowly lifted his gaze, looked at him for 1 second, then returned to his tablet without a word. That indifference infuriated Ryan. "Hey, I'm talking to you, idiot. Don't play deaf. Who do you think you are, huh? You're messing with Olivia. Back off. She's mine now." Daniel sighed, set the tablet aside, and answered calmly, "Yours? Things that are owned are usually objects. Are you saying Miss Olivia isn't human?" "Don't lecture me," Ryan snapped. "I know what you're doing. You came back to steal her now that she's successful, right?" Daniel let out a cold little laugh. "Steal Olivia? Why would I bother picking up the trash I already threw out?" Ryan's face turned bright red. Daniel stood. Now they were toe-to-toe. "Listen carefully," Daniel whispered with such intensity that Ryan instinctively stepped back. "I'm not interested in Olivia. I'm interested in her company. And in case you're dying to know," he added, glancing at the shopping bags in Ryan's hands, "Olivia came begging me to finance her project. She can't even afford your lifestyle without pleading with me for help." "Liar," Ryan spat. "Oh, sure," Daniel said. He reached into his wallet and pulled out a black metal card. "I'm feeling generous today." He waved to the waiter. "The check, please, and add this gentleman's bill. I'm buying." He looked back at Ryan. "Consider it charity. You need it more than I do." Daniel picked up his tablet and left, while the whole cafe silently watched Ryan stand there, humiliated, the center of unwanted attention. The hook was in the water. While Olivia was forced to hand over her documents to Marcus's auditors in a panic, Ryan was being publicly ridiculed. That same night, Marcus's team gathered in the war room of the Brooklyn Heights mansion. On a huge screen, the cash flows of Olivia Construction, Inc. were projected. "This isn't a company, Mr. Carter," Marcus said, pointing at the charts. "It's a house of cards, balanced in mid-air." "Explain," Daniel said. "First, materials," Marcus began. "She charges her clients for top-grade cement, but records show she buys bottom grade. She skims 40% on that fraud alone. It's illegal and dangerous." Daniel shivered, remembering a little bridge Olivia had bragged about. "Second, debts," Marcus went on. "She's too clever to use bank loans. Instead, she borrows from small suppliers, family-run hardware stores, tiny equipment renters, little sand and gravel yards. She delays payments for months, even years, knowing they don't have the legal muscle to fight her." A list of names flashed on the screen. Garcia Materials, The Bolt Hardware, Iberia Machinery, and many more. Daniel recognized some. "And third, taxes," Marcus concluded. "She keeps 2 sets of books, one for herself and one for the IRS. Her tax evasion is massive." Daniel fell silent. The woman he had been married to for 10 years, whose illnesses and triumphs he had shared, was a con artist, an extortionist, a thief. "Perfect," he said at last. Marcus blinked, surprised. "Perfect?" "Yes, this gives us a weapon. What's the next step?" Daniel asked. "Olivia is obsessed with us and our 2,000 acres, Marcus explained. "She hasn't realized her weakest point is her debt to those small suppliers." Daniel nodded slowly. "Then I want you to—" He paused, fine-tuning the plan. "I want you to buy those debts." Marcus smiled. "I thought you might say that. I've already set up 3 shell companies in Delaware. We'll buy every outstanding invoice those suppliers hold. We'll pay cash." "The suppliers will be delighted," Daniel said. "Delighted," Marcus agreed. "And Olivia won't know a thing. She'll just feel relief because the calls stop. She'll think we're doing her a favor and that we're about to inject capital." "How long?" Daniel asked. "Give me a week. In 1 week, Olivia Construction won't owe a single dollar to those small businesses," Marcus said. "She'll owe it all to us." And that's exactly what happened. Just as Marcus had predicted, Olivia's life seemed to get easier overnight. The furious calls from suppliers stopped. She took it as a lucky sign, assuming rumors of her upcoming deal with Carter Legacy had scared off the collectors. She couldn't have been more wrong. As the pressure eased, Olivia decided to go one step further. Not only lock Daniel in as a business partner, but drag him back into her emotional web. In her mind, the old Daniel was still weak, naive, and in love. She sent an enormous bouquet of white roses, his former favorites, to the Brooklyn Heights mansion, along with a note, "I know I made mistakes. Let's talk like we used to. Dinner at our usual place." Daniel was about to throw the flowers away, but Marcus stopped him. "Go," he said. "Let her sink herself." That evening, Daniel went to the elegant restaurant where Olivia had asked him to marry her years before. She was already there, flawless, with the most expensive bottle of wine on the list sitting on the table. "Daniel," she said, taking his hand across the linen tablecloth. He let her. His skin felt cold. "I'm sorry," Olivia began, eyes glistening just the right amount. Her performance was perfect. "I know I was awful. Ryan is just a toy. I caved under pressure. Business is brutal, and you were so busy with your mom I felt alone." "So it was my fault?" Daniel cut in, his tone calm. "It was my fault you cheated?" No, of course not," she rushed to say. "I was blind. I didn't see the diamond I had until I saw you in that boardroom the other day. That's when I realized—" "Realized what?" he asked. "How amazing you are," she said. "We could be the best team. I've left Ryan. He's out of the apartment," she lied. In reality, Ryan was out shopping with her card at that very moment. We can start over. You with your land, me with my experience. Forget Marcus. You don't need him. You only need me. Daniel slowly pulled his hand back. Your seduction skills are better than your business pitch, he said, his voice icy. Olivia faltered. Maybe you're right, he continued, as if thinking out loud. We do need to sort this out, but I can't mix business and personal matters. Of course, she said quickly. Let's finish the company part first. I've seen the results of your audit, Daniel said. And? She asked anxiously. And we need to have a serious talk. Tomorrow, my office, 10 a.m. Bring your lawyer if you like. Once that's settled, we'll talk about us. He stood, leaving her with the expensive wine and a confident smile on her face, clearly convinced she had just won him back. At 10 on the dot the next morning, Olivia arrived at the Brooklyn Heights boardroom without a lawyer and with another bouquet of roses. She was sure the meeting was just a formality before their reconciliation. The mood, however, was anything but romantic. Daniel was already seated at the head of the mahogany table. Marcus stood beside him. On the table there were no coffee cups or wine glasses, just stacks of legal documents. Sit down, Olivia, Daniel said curtly. She obeyed, her smile slipping. Let's get straight to the point, he announced. Mr. Marcus. The consultant placed a thick folder in front of her. Ms. Olivia, he began, this is the list of debts belonging to Olivia Construction, Inc., starting with Garcia Materials, $100,000, The Bolt Hardware, $50,000, Iberia Machinery, $200,000, and so on. He continued, reading name after name. The verified total owed to 12 suppliers is $500,000. Olivia's face drained of color. What is this supposed to mean? I'm negotiating with them, she protested. There's nothing left to negotiate, Daniel cut in, because they've all been paid. She stared at him, confused. Paid? Who paid them? He pointed to himself. I did. Marcus slid a second folder her way. Through 3 investment companies affiliated with Carter Legacy, LLC, we've acquired all of those outstanding invoices. The assignments of credit are in this folder. Olivia opened the first page and felt her heart stop. In other words, Olivia, Daniel said, leaning forward to look her in the eyes, your company no longer owes those small businesses a single dollar. A heavy silence fell. Your company owes that money to me. To me. Olivia forgot to breathe for a moment. I can pay, she stammered. I can pay in installments. Of course you can, Daniel said, but I'm not interested in doing business with you, and I'm certainly not interested in getting back together. The only thing I want is my money. He tapped the pile of documents in front of her. According to the assignment clauses, these debts are past due. As of this moment, you have 24 hours to pay those $500,000 in cash. 24 hours. That's impossible. No one has that kind of cash on hand, she shouted, panicking. I do, he replied, icy. You set me up. This is a trap. A trap? Daniel stood. I'm just claiming what's mine, the same way you took everything that was mine. If in 24 hours you haven't paid, he said, dropping a third folder onto the table, our legal team will immediately file to place a lien on the Imperial Tower penthouse, your office, and all your heavy machinery. Good day, Miss Olivia. 24 hours. Olivia had never experienced a day so short. When she left the mansion, she didn't go back to the apartment. She was out of her mind. The first hour she spent driving aimlessly, cursing Daniel, Marcus, and the world. The second hour she called her bank manager. I need a $500,000 loan. I'll put my Georgia project up as collateral. The manager laughed softly on the phone. Olivia, don't joke. You don't have that project yet, and your credit line is already maxed out just to finance, well, you know. Olivia hung up abruptly. From the 3rd to the 10th hour she called everyone she knew, every friend she had clinked expensive glasses with, every official whose palm she had greased. The answers were variations on the same rejection. Oof, things are tight, Olivia. Or, wow, I'm out of the country, sorry. Many simply didn't answer. Word of her possible fall, which had started to spread after the mansion meeting, was racing faster than fire. In the 11th hour, desperate, she finally went back to the penthouse. Ryan was trying on another new outfit. "How do I look? Amazing, right?" "Sell it," she roared. "What?" "Sell everything," she rasped, eyes bloodshot. "Sell your watches, your designer sneakers. We're bankrupt." His face twisted. "Those are gifts, not investments. Are you crazy?" "Daniel set a trap for me," Olivia ranted. "That bastard bought my debts. He gave us 24 hours to pay $500,000. Ryan didn't care about the structure of the debt. He heard one thing: the money was gone. "This is all your fault," he shouted, pounding his chest. "You told me you were rich, that you were big time, and it turns out you're a fraud." Olivia, who had already lost everything, unloaded her rage on the only target within reach. "My fault? It's my fault. Who demanded insanely expensive watches every week? Who insisted on vacations in Cancun? You made me spend. You're a parasite. A parasite." Ryan gaped like a stranded fish. Their argument got so brutal and loud, it turned into a spectacle in the Imperial Tower entrance. They didn't notice someone across the street filming them on a phone. "I didn't sign up for this," Ryan yelled. "We're done." He dragged his suitcase toward the curb, trying to flag a cab. "Where are you going? You can't survive without me," Olivia sneered. "We'll see." Ryan headed straight for a luxury hotel and tried to check in with the supposedly unlimited card she had given him. "I'm sorry, sir. Card declined," the receptionist said calmly. He tried another, declined, and another. All of them rejected. Olivia had either blocked the accounts or the bank had. Panic surged. He started calling his high society friends. "Buddy, I've got a situation. Can you lend me?" The calls cut off quickly. Before long, his calls went straight to voicemail. He had no idea Daniel didn't have to lift a finger. It was enough for Marcus to leak the audit report on Olivia to a few key people. News that she was a con woman and that Ryan, the lover, was tied to a broken, corrupt developer spread through the elite's group chats like wildfire. He became toxic. No one wanted to be seen anywhere near him. That same night, the video of his fight with Olivia in front of the building went viral on gossip blogs. His perfect face was now tied to bankruptcy and tawdry drama. His modeling career was over. The doors of the luxury world slammed shut. Ryan, who had believed he was at the top, ended up selling his clothes and some accessories, many of which he discovered were fakes Olivia had slipped past him, one by one just to survive, sliding back into the anonymity he despised. Exactly at 10 a.m., 24 hours later, the penthouse doorbell rang. Olivia, who hadn't slept, ran to open it, expecting to see Daniel arriving to forgive her and cancel his threat. Not even close. On the threshold stood Marcus, as calm as ever. Behind him were two impeccably dressed lawyers and a man in an official uniform carrying a thick folder. A court officer. "Your time is up, Miss Olivia," Marcus said tonelessly. "I just need a little more time," she babbled. "Time is a luxury you didn't give Daniel," Marcus cut in. He stepped forward. "By order of the Superior Court of New York City, we're here to execute the seizure of this property." The court officer began placing seizure notices on the walls by the entrance. "No, this is my home!" Olivia shrieked. "Technically, it's the collateral for your debt to my client," one of the lawyers corrected. "You and this young man," he glanced at Ryan, who had come back hoping to collect a few last things, "have an hour to leave. You may take only your most essential personal belongings." An hour later, the Imperial Tower lobby played out an inverted version of the scene from weeks earlier. Olivia, the same woman who 10 years ago had felt like the building's queen, was being escorted to the street by the same guards who had once dragged Daniel outside. Ryan followed, sobbing hysterically, dragging 2 suitcases stuffed with clothes and accessories. Olivia was no longer only bankrupt on paper. She was literally on the street, reduced to the same 0 point she had tried to force on Daniel. 2 weeks after the seizure, Daniel and Marcus sat in the mansion's boardroom. The mahogany table was now covered with blueprints. "All assets of Olivia Construction have been liquidated," Marcus reported. Her offices, machinery, the penthouse, it all covers the 500,000 plus interest and legal fees. Good, Daniel said. What do we do with the penthouse? Sell it. Marcus shook his head. No. Sell all the luxury furniture, leave it empty, then hand the keys to Mr. Roberts at Southern Heritage Bank. Tell them to give it to Alex as a bonus. Marcus raised an amused eyebrow at the poetic justice. Alex the teller? Yes, he deserves it. He was the first person who helped me. Very well, sir. And the 2,000 acres? Are we still going ahead with the luxury development plan? Marcus asked. Daniel rose and walked to the window overlooking the garden. He remembered his father's letter. Build your own kingdom. Olivia wanted to build a palace for rich people to stare at from behind a fence, he said. I'm going to do the opposite. He returned to the table and pointed to a new set of plans. We'll use the first 250 acres to build decent, subsidized housing, with a school and a small clinic included. For whom? Marcus asked, genuinely curious now. For the workers in our orchards, and for the owners of the small businesses Olivia almost destroyed. They'll get priority and special discounts. And the machinery we repossessed from Olivia, we'll use it to build those homes, Daniel added with a faint smile. Poetic justice. Not just that, he continued. On another 25 acres, we'll build the Carter Center, a training hub for modern agribusiness and small business management. I want people like my father to have a chance to succeed without having to hide. Daniel wasn't just taking revenge. He was creating a legacy. He was done with Olivia, but the law wasn't. Now living in a shared apartment on the outskirts of the city, Olivia thought the worst was behind her. After losing everything to Daniel, she assumed at least she was free. One afternoon, as she ate instant noodles, there was a knock at the door. Police, someone called. She jumped. Miss Olivia, you're under arrest, one of the officers said. What now? She snapped. My debt to Daniel is paid. This isn't about debt, the officer replied. It's about using substandard materials on that bridge in the small town in Georgia, and about tax fraud. Olivia froze. How did they know? She didn't know that Marcus, on behalf of a client concerned about public safety, as Daniel had introduced himself, had anonymously sent the double book accounting records and the lab reports on the defective cement to the district attorney and the tax authorities. She built a bridge that might collapse, Daniel had said. That can kill people. This stopped being about her and me a long time ago. It's about justice. News of Olivia's arrest became a local headline. Elite developer falls, alleged corruption and fraud. In the mansion, Daniel saw the headline on the giant screen in the living room. He watched the footage of Olivia's gaunt, furious face as officers led her away. He felt neither joy nor anger, only closure. He turned off the TV. A year later, Carter Legacy LLC was no longer a dormant, mysterious entity. It had become one of the new economic pillars of the southern states. Daniel had modernized the orchards with sustainable practices, raised wages, and built decent facilities. The Carter Center had opened its doors, and its first class had already graduated. The first phase of the subsidized housing project was full. No one called him Sir with fear anymore. The older workers called him Mr. Daniel or Albert's boy with respect and affection. He stood on a hill overlooking the property, watching the green expanse under the afternoon sun. He was no longer the messy man thrown out of Imperial Tower's lobby, nor the icy executive in the boardroom. He was Daniel, whole. He heard footsteps behind him. Daniel, the view is stunning, Marcus said. He no longer wore a suit, just a linen shirt. He spent more time in the fields than in the city now. It is, Daniel replied with a genuine smile. My father used to call this an anchor. Turns out you can build a lot with an anchor. You've built your kingdom, Daniel, Marcus said. We've built it, Daniel corrected him. Marcus smiled. My team in the city keeps asking when I'm coming back. I guess I owe them an answer. And what's your answer? Daniel asked, looking at him. Marcus didn't respond with words. He stepped closer, held Daniel's gaze, and held out his hand. They don't need me as a consultant anymore, the cleaner, he said. No, Daniel answered, gripping his hand firmly. Now I need you as a partner. They stood there watching the sunset over their kingdom, a kingdom not built on greed and lies, but on the rubble of betrayal and on the foundations of justice and a new legacy. Did you enjoy the story? From which city are you listening? I'll be reading your comments. If you liked it, you can support the channel by sending a thank you so we can keep bringing more stories like this one. Thank you so much for your kindness. I can't wait to hear what you thought. On the screen, you'll find 2 new life stories I highly recommend. There's much more on the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next life story with all my love and respect.